Welcome everybody to today's webinar about the toll-free exchange powered by Teliax. We're going to talk about where toll-free is today and where we see it heading. And I'm going to turn this over to our CEO, David Aldworth, who is going to give the presentation today. So welcome, David, and thanks for doing this today.
You bet. Thanks, Kerry. I appreciate the intro. Thank you, everybody, for joining, taking some time out of your day to learn about what we're doing with the toll-free exchange. For those of you who are not aware, the simplest explanation of the toll-free exchange, what we've built, is a full-service toll-free platform for all of your inbound, outbound, PSTN connectivity, as well as toll-free management needs, with the addition of being the only licensed peering platform for the responsible organization. I won't get too deep into the weeds on how toll-free works, but if you have access to toll-free numbering resources, then you are a SOMOS authorized responsible organization, and you have a responsible organization ID. And the toll-free exchange allows for these entities to post the responsible organization IDs and to make and receive toll-free calls or peer those calls amongst the participants without ever passing through the PSTN. So let's dive into our first slide. If you've been in toll-free space for a while, you know that dealing with an inter-exchange carrier or even dealing with a reseller of toll-free can be expensive, it can be confusing, and integration can be a challenge. The toll-free exchange is a new way of interacting with toll-free numbers, a new way in the routing, which is based on an authoritative routing data point as opposed to a 10-digit routing, and also provides a very radically different revenue as well as cost model. By providing the alternative routing model, the alternative cost and revenue model, we are able to save carriers, service providers, and enterprises substantial percentages off of their bills, as well as increase their revenue. Our API solutions are seamless, lightning fast, come with virtually no disruption of downtime. The toll-free exchange is what's really considered an overlay to the existing PSTN, which means that to the extent that the PSTN is still behind the toll-free exchange, you're getting 2 layers of redundancy and reliability. Our average custom integration is deployed in less than 3 hours, and you have everything to gain and nothing to lose by joining the toll-free exchange. It's literally the truth. The tools within the toll-free exchange are a 100% guarantee that when you make or receive a phone call through the toll-free exchange, you will either increase your revenue or you will save expense, network expense off of your toll-free traffic. We'll get into a little detail on how we're able to make such a claim in a minute. So what's the old way of doing toll-free routing? The old way is where you've got, let's say, a consumer on their cell phone making a call to, let's say, T-Mobile to a toll-free number. Let's say that they're calling 1-800-airline, Delta, United, you name it. That call is typically going to go from the wireless carrier to a local exchange carrier. T-Mobile is known to work a lot with Inteliquent. Inteliquent is going to send that call to typically an inter-exchange carrier. This is the third tile that you're seeing on your screen there. That inter-exchange carrier might be AT&T, might be Verizon. It's really whomever the responsible organization picks, which is that next tile, the REST board. The REST board decides whether they want to receive that call from AT&T, Lumen, Verizon, etc. And then the responsible organization, which may be, let's say it's Twilio, they send that call to the end user. In their case, their customer is the airline. There's a lot of hops, and if you're not familiar, there's also a lot of exchange of money along the way. Typically, what that means is that the enterprise, in this case an airline is the example that I'm using, is going to obviously pay their carrier. Their carrier is probably a responsible organization. In this model, in this example, we're saying that the airline might pay 0.015 or a penny and a half per minute for that call. The responsible organization is going to take their piece of that pie. They're going to compensate the inter-exchange carrier, let's say AT&T. Perhaps they have to pay 0005. And then the money flows in reverse on toll-free, right? Because that's what it is. Toll-free calls are essentially reverse long distance. But each step of each link in the chain takes a little bit of money out of that. And by the time the call gets upstream, a lot of people have their hands in the honeypot. Calls get expensive. Different networks are involved. You've got things going from TDM to IP and back again. And you can have call degradation, and you have reliability failures, and once again, cost. So how does the toll-free exchange do it? Toll-free exchange takes that call from T-Mobile. T-Mobile is a REST fork. T-Mobile is a responsible organization. So we say, listen, T-Mobile, you don't have to send that call to Intelliquent, to send that call to AT&T, to send that call to Twilio, to send that call to Delta, right? Because the truth of the matter is Twilio is a responsible organization too in this example. So with a authoritative routing data point, that is the responsible organization ID, we can take that call from T-Mobile and send it directly to Twilio. If the airline, let's say Delta or United, if the enterprise wanted to be a responsible organization, they can sign up and become one as well. We actually got called directly from T-Mobile to the airline without 10-digit routing. That's key here. A lot of people talk about peering, enum, and other types of other methods of peering calls, but they're non-authoritative. They are best effort, and they're 10-digit. So you wind up with data sets of tens of millions of numbers. There are approximately 300 responsible organizations that exist. So by using the toll-free exchange, we're able to use a one-to-many centralized data point to get the call directly from the originator to the terminator of the call. The result is actually many-fold, but the biggest result is that you put, at the same time, more money in the hand of T-Mobile for originating that call, and less expense to the terminator of that call. So, like I claimed earlier, we, through the toll-free exchange, based on this patented routing methodology, are able to save money for the entity or enterprise that is receiving the call and increase revenue to the originator of the call at the same time. It's simple economics. There's less hands in the honeypot. There's less people trying to take money off the table. And AT&T and Verizon and Lumen, which are the 3 largest inter-exchange carriers, there are others. When you think about the call flow end to end in this way, they are resellers. We think of them as being the PSTN, but they're not. They are reselling the call from other entities. So we've introduced a way to bring the endpoints closer together. It's just that simple. We also partnered up with a carrier in Canada, Allstream. Allstream and the toll-free exchange have a strategic partnership whereby they are using the toll-free exchange to route 100% of their kit code. Kit code is the old way of doing LD on feature group E-based networks or TDM networks. But what they do is they essentially route the entire country to the toll-free exchange, and they use the toll-free exchange as both a routing and billing settlement platform, which means you can go to the toll-free exchange, and in a matter of minutes, you can be set up with an IP connection to receive all of your North American originated toll-free calls, and if you have outbound toll-free traffic, a place to send all of your toll-free calls and get compensated for that. The toll-free exchange does a monthly billing and settlement where they actually offset the two, and you get a net payment or you have a net bill, depending on the balance of traffic. So at a macroeconomic level, we're moving traffic directly between the calling parties, and what that does is level the playing field. Bringing the endpoints closer together means that it is a more level playing field for those who are participating. The more who participate, the more benefit that there is. The traffic is compensated directly from the members of the exchange. The toll-free exchange itself just acts as a settlement platform. So you can see in the monthly statements all of the places that your traffic either went to or that your traffic came from. It is not you do not have a veil, and you are not blinded to what's on the other side of the call. You get full transparency end to end on all the calls coming in and out of your network. By reducing the middleman, and eliminating the middle networks, we are able to increase revenue, and all the rules of engagement with regulated agencies and FCC rules and regs, and all of the constraints and reporting that are put onto regulated local exchange carriers and ILECs are set aside because the exchange is not considered a what they call Title II regulated utility. The FCC considers the toll-free exchange to be a computer service, which means that we operate as a tool of the internet, and you can set up commercial agreements with all of the other carriers that are participating in the toll-free exchange. You can pick from the carriers that you want to receive your traffic from, and you can do the same on the sending side if you have the outbound traffic as well. One of the really cool things the toll-free exchange does is because it is IP end to end, most of the traffic that originates in the United States today is originated IP. If you're making a phone call from a cell phone, it's likely what they refer to as VoLTE or voice over LTE, and that has the capability of doing HD voice. So that SIP signal flows through the exchange with the right compression, such that if both sides of the call have HD voice capability or video capability, it's going to negotiate with that. It is a SIP interconnection end to end. And if the endpoints support HD voice and video, you will get HD voice and video, because we are not introducing any TDM components into that call flow. This is better news for your customers, plain and simple.
So David, there was a question here, and you kind of answered it right there, is what is the connectivity from a company into the toll-free exchange? What is the physical connection?
Yeah, it's an IP interconnection. So SIP, which I think is, we would all agree, is the de facto standard for doing voice interconnections these days. It's a very uncomplicated process. It is IP based, and it is all in real time through the portal. And I'll do a real quick run through on the portal when we're done with these slides. But you can go into the portal, you can add your IP addresses both for sending or receiving traffic. You do so on a REST-Borg ID basis. If you don't have a REST-Borg ID, don't worry about it. It's not a requirement. We can help you with that. We can actually assign one to you. And then you can immediately start sending and receiving calls. There's no delay. There's no forms to fill out. There's no provisioning, and it's all right through the portal.
And so then what if the other REST-Borg isn't on the toll-free exchange?
Sure, great question. If you send a call to the toll-free exchange, obviously what the toll-free exchange tries to do is marry that call up with the responsible organization on the other end of the call. In the example I used earlier, we used Twilio, a member of the exchange, right? If they're not part of the exchange, if it's going to an obscure REST-Borg or a REST-Borg that just has not yet gotten on the exchange, that call will complete through our partner Teliax to the PSTN. So the call will still complete. It will just default route through to the PSTN. And you still get compensated. You get compensated on that outbound call, whether the call peers or not. And the same is true.
It's not an either or. It's not either the toll-free exchange or that. You're still getting the benefits of both platforms.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, it's really an overlay to the PSTN. So you actually get 2 bites at the apple, right? So you get the opportunity to peer the call first, but you also will have the backup of knowing that call still completes through the PSTN in the event that it can't peer directly through the toll-free exchange. And that's true on both sides of the call. So if the call is sent to the exchange and you're there, then obviously you get the call from the exchange. But if the call is sent to the exchange and it's trying to find you and it can't, that call will fail over to the PSTN on the inbound side and should still reach you in the event that you've got other connections. If toll-free exchange is your only connection to the PSTN, then obviously you need to make sure there's some redundancy in there. Okay.
Excellent. Yep, I think that answered that one.
The way that the costing works in the toll-free exchange is commercial. What does commercial mean? So again, going back to our example of having a call coming from T-Mobile and going to Twilio. T-Mobile and Twilio can see that the call is being passed between them, and they can negotiate their rates that they want to have for calls both sending and receiving. So when you go on the toll-free exchange, you set something called a default rate, which is the rate, there's both default buy and sell rate. So if it's a default buy rate, it's the rate that you're willing to essentially purchase your traffic at, right? You're going to pay to receive those toll-free calls, and you're saying, well, if the call is peered to the toll-free exchange, I don't want to pay any more than 003. Great, put that on the toll-free exchange. Anybody whose rate is lower than that will automatically go through. But then you say, but if the call is coming from AT&T Mobility, I really think the calls should cost me only 001. Okay, great. You can go and you can say for calls coming from all of AT&T Mobility's REST-board, I only want 001. Now, AT&T Mobility may come along and say, yeah, but you know what? We actually think the rate should be 002. So there is the opportunity to do deal making or commercial agreements through the toll-free exchange on a per REST-board ID basis. It's not a requirement by any stretch of the imagination. You can certainly go in there and just set one default buy rate and one default sell rate and be done with it. But sometimes traffic won't then peer through the exchange and it'll have to take a different route to get to you, because if the rates don't match up, then the exchange route advances that call. So that was the buy side. The sell side, what are you willing? So if you have outbound toll-free traffic and you expect revenue on that outbound toll-free traffic, what is your revenue expectation? So you might be able to go out into the market and get a rate of whatever, 001, 002. And on the exchange, you can say, well, if it's coming to me on a tiered route, I'd like to get 0025 because I have a flat rate through this other reciprocal compensation vendor of 002. Great, put 0025 in there. People are willing to pay that all day long because it's a lot cheaper than what they're paying the IXC for those calls. And you can do all of this through the exchange with a full set of reporting. There's a BIBA dashboard built into the toll-free exchange so you can see where calls are coming and going. And we'll look at that in just a minute, and what those rates were and how much you're paying. So you can do flat rates, you can do individual rates, and you can even, on the traffic that you receive, you can do what we call rate protection, which is if you already are doing business with one of the interexchange carriers and you have either a LATA OCN or you have an LRN-based rate deck, you want to make sure that the cost you're paying to receive that call from the exchange is no more than what you're getting in your rate deck. You can accomplish that through the toll-free exchange as well. Again, why I say you are 100% guaranteed to only save money by receiving traffic on the toll-free exchange, because we will do rate protection, individual rates, and flat rates all through the exchange.
Now, one of the things you've been talking about is kind of carrier to carrier, but there's a huge benefit for call centers as well.
Sure. So, I mean, the evolution of the exchange, the arc of evolution of the exchange has really gone from being purely a responsible organization-based platform, so it's purely for responsible organizations, to becoming a full-fledged toll-free solution for all of your inbound and outbound services. Meaning, if you're a call center and you want to take advantage of the toll-free exchange, great. Toll-free exchange can give you a pseudo REST-board ID, and you can use that REST-board ID to send and receive calls across the toll-free exchange. Once again, you can use the toll-free exchange to receive all of your North America originated calls in the US as well as in Canada and Alaska. And then you can also send all of your traffic through the toll-free exchange. And you do not need a REST-board ID to participate anymore. You can participate as an enterprise or as an SMB business. Okay.
Yep, excellent.
So pricing, as we said, it's based on the responsible organizations or the participants of the toll-free exchange that are sending and receiving calls. If you're using the toll-free exchange to receive 100% of what we refer to as your 8XX traffic, that is your inbound traffic coming into your platform, then you will have the tiered rate, and then you'll have a default rate. And the same is true on the outbound side. If you're sending outbound traffic through, you'll have a slightly higher compensation for your outbound that gets tiered, and then a default rate for everything else. The toll-free exchange pricing is very straightforward. The toll-free exchange charges $0.005 on the originating side of the call per minute, and that's it. Everybody participates in the toll-free exchange in the exact same way. There is no volume-based pricing. There are no commit swaps. That is the monetization model for the toll-free exchange is $0.005 on the originating side of the call, and that's it. The biggest benefactors of the toll-free exchange are the folks that are peering their traffic through the toll-free exchange or using it for their inbound and outbound service. We talked a little bit about the HD voice, the native video. I'm going to show you, we can spend a day looking through the toll-free exchange portal and looking at all the various BIBA reports that you can generate, as well as the ability to do various routing and loading functions. But we could spend a lot more time, and if anybody on the call is interested in having a more in-depth review of the portal, by all means reach out to your rep and we'll get that set up. So just in summary, historically, the traditional voice service isn't call routing but expensive, but the toll-free exchange is for toll-free. Anyway, the one-stop integration to public and private cloud. And our partner, Teliax, has been providing these solutions for about 18 years. So this is not the toll-free exchange itself has been around for about 7 years. And then the parent company, Teliax, has been around for about 18 years. So there's a lot, there's a lot of infrastructure and network and a long history of business behind these platforms. Okay.
I want to point out, if anyone else has any questions, just please use the questions box and we'll get to them. I'm sorry, David, go ahead.
Yep. Nope, that's it for the slide presentation. But real quick, I'm just going to swap my screen over to my browser. Hopefully everybody can see that. What we're looking at right now is the toll-free exchange portal. This is a customer's account. And this is one of the many, so if you look on the left side, this is one of many reports that are available both for originating traffic, terminating traffic, overall reports. You can actually see live call reports, and then you can, of course, export and download your call records. What we're looking at here is essentially a grouping of calls and call history between responsible organization IDs. So if you look at that top line, essentially what you're looking at is the NEX01 entity ID and calls that it sent to Integra Telecom, otherwise known as Allstream. I'm not sure if you can see what I'm sort of highlighting here. Allstream is IMT 22 RESTborg ID. There were 37 attempts for 311 minutes. The average length of call was really long. ASR was 100%. We're very transparent about the costs and fees. So Allstream, in this particular grouping, Allstream would have paid $1.24 for those 37 calls and 311 minutes, right? The toll-free exchange fee would have been 0.16 or 16 cents. So, which is to say, NEX01 is going to receive $1.24 from Allstream less the toll-free exchange fee of 16 cents, right? Obviously there's some bigger participants there, right? So we've got Five9 as a contact center. They participate a lot more traffic. So NEX01 is going to receive $56 there. The toll-free exchange fee is $8. And this is just one report. You get things like near miss reports, what I like to call a near miss report, which is where the ceiling rate that has been set is lower than the sell rate. And if that is the case, the call won't complete, but it could, because there's participants, right? So you can see, where's one with a lot of it? So Comeo or Think. So couldn't tell you why, but these calls to Think are rated at 004, and Comeo has basically said, I don't want to pay 004. So the toll-free exchange sends the call back to NEX01, and NEX01 can either route advance that call themselves, or they can have the toll-free exchange complete the call, but it will be at a default compensation rate. It won't be at the tiered rate of 004. Why NEX01 thinks the Comeo is willing to pay 004? I don't know, but obviously they're not. Call will still complete, it just won't complete over the exchange. Now, what should happen is NEX01 should go in and they should look at this report and they should say, obviously 004 is a little too high. So they can go to their configuration page, and I'm going to go fast because, like I said, I could very easily spend a couple of hours going through all the various nuances of the portal, but what we want to do real quick is we want to set an individual sell rate to VNI 01 of 0.0035, less than 0.004. Hit the notify affect Restport button and hit plus. I'm not going to do it because it's going to send an email. This is a live portal. And then Comeo will see that and they can decide if they want to accept the rate or not. And they can counter. They can say, no, but 0.025 works for us. Okay, great. That works for us too. So you get the concept of a deal portal in here as well for all of your rates and on the control of all of your traffic. You can see all of your invoices, your transaction history. We do have a 10-digit routing capability in here as well, should you need that, which essentially mirrors the way the inter-exchange carriers work today. So if you have an agreement with an inter-exchange carrier like AT&T or Verizon or Lumen, typically you have to upload your 10-digit file so that they know, it's your RESTborg ID, and then these 10-digit numbers go to your SIP trunk or your TDM trunk, perhaps, and they route the calls into you that way. So we did have some customers that were in this transformation period between, the traditional old way of doing it and then the newer way of doing it based on responsible organization ID. So we gave them a way to essentially work with the 10-digit routing like they've done for many years. So you can add a number in here. If it's your number, you can decide if you want to send it to your, which trunk group do you want to send it to? Trunk group primary, or do you want to reject it? Some people want to be able to block calls. You can block calls using this as well. But suffice to say, if you're coming from a traditional toll-free routing environment, you will have those same tools in this environment as well. I apologize. I realize it's already 4:30 East Coast time, and this is a 30-minute webinar. I didn't realize it had gone so fast. Anyway, like I said, there's a lot more that we can show you if you have interest and would like to see more or discuss more. If you have additional questions, please reach out to your rep. You can reach out to Kerry Garrison, who I believe the emails for this webinar, his contact information is on all of those, and we'd be happy to facilitate a deeper dive into the exchange, the platform, how the rating works, and any other questions you might have. So with that, if there aren't any questions, I'll turn it back over to Kerry, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, David. Excellent presentation. Again, if there's any last minute questions, please go ahead and use the questions box. Otherwise, again, feel free to reach out to us, whether your rep is Blake or George, or you can reach out to myself, Kerry, or info@tollfree.exchange. Any way you want to get a hold of us, we can help answer any additional questions for you. If you want a deeper dive into how the toll-free exchange actually functions on the portal side, we can do a more in-depth one-on-one demo with you on that as well. since I don't see any additional questions here, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you all for joining with us today. We are going to do more regular webinars, so just check your emails to see what we have coming up soon. And again, thank you, David. Appreciate your time. And with that, we'll see you all next time.